today we are excited to have with us Sina Abimbola. I will call him my teacher because once I was trained by him on outside broadcast at the training school at Ikeja. And it's so good to have him in the house. He's retired Director of Programs, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN headquarters, Abuja. And well, a lot of people are arguing because I've gotten some messages to say, are you sure that is the most exposed ceremonial sports commentator on radio in Nigeria? And I tell them, why don't you just come to the training session and then you know if truly he is. Sina cut his teeth in broadcasting immediately on graduation from secondary school in 1978. I don't know how many of us were born then, but I was. And then one of his teachers, the wife of Fatoyibo, recommended him to the great commentator, Tolu Fatoyibo, who groomed him and finally helped him in the offer of employment in Radio Nigeria as principal commentator. So lucky, I would say. Most of us started on ground level 8. Well, he rose through the ranks and he retired in the year 2005. He has covered nearly all big international sporting competitions and he's married with children. Join me to welcome Sina Abimbola, a great commentator. You can just say hi, everyone, unmute yourself and say hello to him.
You're welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Well, let me just say this, chip in this. Sina was not lucky to be employed as a principal commentator. He didn't want, ab initio, he didn't want to join us, whether he likes it or not. He didn't. He was doing commentary with us in Ibadan. In fact, he was the pillar of commentary in Ibadan. Apart from Tolu Fatoyibo, we had the likes of, what we had there was just some neophytes. So Sina was not our staff, but he was the pillar of our sports and the outside broadcast commentary in Ibadan. And they begged and begged and begged, come and join. He was busy making more money, selling cars and other things, until eventually and finally he decided to join us. And we rated his position at the time, and it was proper. He was given a minimum of principal. That was how he came in. And that was in 2012, I think. Sina will correct me if I'm wrong. 2002, yes, when we were preparing for the sports festival in Benin, I think, at that time.
Wow, great testimony there. Thank you so much, Dr. Odipo. So over to you. I'll call you Dr. Sina because you are the teacher today.
Well, if Dr. Odipo agrees that I merit that title, but I think if he, because I knew when he was fighting the establishment in the University of Nigeria and Anambra State University to be PhD holder, and I said, okay, what is the meaning of this? What? You have the name already. He said no. And I can also tell you very, very, very authoritatively that even his wife is also a PhD holder. So to be a PhD holder and to be married to another PhD holder, I think you can imagine what that means. That must be
doctors in the house.
A gigantic family in terms of education. Anyway, I thank you, everybody. Good morning, members of the Media Hub, TMH for short. and non-members alike who are interested in this experience or part of my experiences that I want to share with you this morning. Dr. Odipo, I think it is not incidental. Well, because we've been together for quite some time now, decades. And I recall that because you are so sure of my capability, you are the one who recommended me to the training school in Ladipo, Oshodi, to train upcoming broadcasters in the art of outside broadcasting. And I recall also that on the basis of that, Mr. Ima Odu also took me to Voice of Nigeria in Ikorodu, where I also got exposed to some upcoming broadcasters who by now have reached the management cadre of broadcasting. One of them is T2, and then a couple of other names. I don't need to mention them so that some people don't get embarrassed, especially if they are listening to me now, because we have reached the zenith of this profession. And some of them even left better than us in terms of how they were addressed. Part of this is outside broadcast management, best practices for seamless execution. I don't need to talk about myself. I think my Oga, who incidentally was also a director of programs, one of the officers, incidentally, with the exception of only two, including Pius Otenwege, who also ended as director of training, Emeka Odipo and Tolufa Toyinbo were occupiers of the director of programs of Radio Nigeria. I am very happy that I also ended up there. I thank God for that. This one is a session created by the Media Hub, and that is the management and administration of the hub. Some of the voices you have heard, and the technical putting together of this, they have handled. And I also want to acknowledge those who are not part of the Media Hub, but who requested from me the opportunity to plug in through the link. And I believe some of them must be joining us if they have not joined us for now. My name is Sina Abimbola. In fact, let me refer to myself as the first apprentice of outside broadcast, because I came in on the basis of sports and outside broadcast into Radio Nigeria. And as Mr. Odipo said, it is the pedigree that I brandished that made Radio Nigeria think about not letting me start from the start again. So we're not going to go into details of the particularities of what you have to have before being able to join an outside broadcast team. Dr. Emeka Odipo had done that one on another platform, which I was part of as one of his students. And I can't remember the title now, but I know that it had to do about what you needed or what you need to have to be part of the team that is covering an outside broadcast, which is the special kind of thing. It's a special broadcast because it is not happening within the four corners of the radio or television station. Well, because I've been part of this, as Mr. Odipo said earlier, or Dr. Odipo said earlier, sorry, Oga, I continue referring to you as Mr. I should have said Dr. Odipo. So, as Dr. Odipo said about this earlier, I was a stringer, I was an analyst, I was a discussant, I was a commentator, I was a coordinator, I was the leader of the team, reporter. So I believe on the basis of my pedigree. Some of the things I'm going to tell you today are going to be seen as not totally infallible, but at least as authoritative enough for you to be able to handle outside broadcast assignments from the management perspective. I believe it will aid success. It will aid successful delivery if you can believe some of the things I'm going to talk to you about on today's occasion, on this morning's occasion. Outside broadcast is very unpredictable, very, very unpredictable. But before I go into the things that you need to do from management perspective, before I go into it, let me tell you what we mean by outside broadcast. And this is for the benefit of those who are not broadcasters, but who are joining us on the basis of their interest in what we call broadcasting. Outside broadcast refers to radio or television broadcast that takes place outside a studio, typically in a remote location. We are talking about live events in terms of sports, concerts, festivals, or other events where a broadcast team is sent to capture the action live. We are talking also about news reporting, live reports from the scene of a news event, such as a news conference. We don't call it press conference in Radio Nigeria, we call it news conference. Accidents or natural disaster, as you see maybe on CNN, Sky News. It's also referred to outside broadcast as being, in terms of its format, the format that you can use. You can say documentary, you can say filming on location, talk about reality TV shows. As you see on channel 132 of DSTV, who are squeezing money out of some of us now. There are many other things. In Nigeria, for instance, we do elections, we cover them live. We do sports, we cover them live. We even do meetings, what we call this kind of meetings popularized by our former Minister of Information, Labaran Mako, where you just go there and then let people know how people are feeling about certain issues and certain events as they affect government. Let me say, before I go into the nitty-gritty of the rest, let me say that there is a tendency for us to have abused the concept of outside broadcast in Nigeria. And it is because of, permit me or forgive me if I say, the misconception of the concept of outside broadcast by most of our ministers of information, who think that you are supposed to be at all events, especially sponsored by government or backed by government. There was a critique of this done by Mrs. Maria Ode, incidentally also a director of programs in Radio Nigeria. But that critique is one of the best that I've seen so far, because it told us very early that government was beginning to abuse the concept and perception of outside broadcast. Now, outside broadcast has very many challenges. These challenges include environment, because it could suddenly look promising and then suddenly the weather, for instance, can look overcast and dull and not clement to the assignment you have at hand. That can be electrical equipment challenge, like cameras, like mixers developing faults, like microphones suddenly not behaving true to expectation. There's a problem of electricity, which always requires the OB van to carry with it a generating plant, a generator, with which you may actually have to do your broadcast, more so that you should have emphasized the fact that you're going to even overload the electric supply or demand of the location that you have found yourself, that you need to access as a result of the assignments that you have assigned. There may be lighting problem in case of TV. You will need supplementary lighting, which may be essential to the picture quality. There's what we call cabling problem, which we also have. You put cables from your van to maybe the commentator's point, or where you need the effect. Then a vehicle comes in and does damage to the cables as you have lined. These are some of the challenges that we have. But to overcome these challenges, so that at the end of the day, you do not tell stories, especially if your OB assignment is paid for, you need a lot of planning. And that is where what you need to do to make this thing seamless. That is where I have to come in. You can begin to jump now if you want to jump, so that you can ask questions that are relevant at the end of this exercise. You need pre-event planning. Pre-event planning. This pre-event planning requires all the concerned department hands to be on board. All hands to be on deck. You have to think about, first and foremost, let me first of all run through some of the things you need, so that you write them down, then I can expatiate further. You need team coordination after planning. The planning is the meeting of all departments involved: programs, sports and outside broadcast, news, marketing. Remember that they say engineering is the soul of broadcasting. Program is the body, and marketing puts the body and soul together. You require all hands to be on deck, and then you have to also bring in the people who are going to dispense the money to you, because everything comes down to money. I'm coming back to that. There is team coordination. There is equipment check. You need all those ones. You need venue survey. You need contingency planning. You need communication. I'll tell you more about that. You need rehearsal. You need real-time monitoring. You need vendor management if possible. You need debriefing. And then we talk about risk management. We talk also about budgeting, as I told you earlier. These are what can give us the best of practices in terms of delivering OB assignments. Now, Oga Emeka Odipo will let you know that I will concur, because it's one of the surviving pillars of outside broadcast in Nigeria, that all of these are the duty, or they are within the purview of one man, one professional called OB manager. But later, as we unfold, as we get better in this business, and we have to also incorporate those who don't have broadcasting as their main reason for working in broadcast environment, the importance of OB manager became diminished to such an extent that it falls back within the purview of the leader of the coverage team, in which case, if the OB manager is not there, the lead commentator must ensure that everything is in place. As I told you earlier, the OB manager is supposed to be in charge of venue survey. he has to secure access to you, not only to the event, not only to the environment of the event, but to the hall where action itself will take place. For instance, where the president will take place, where the president will address us, for instance, if it's a presidential broadcast, and it is a grade A broadcast. Now, you get to the venue, no problem. But once the president enters that venue, even with your accreditation, you may not be able to get into it again. So if you don't get into it, how do you do broadcast? Then the OB manager has to secure the access for your team. You have to secure your being there. You have to secure for you the access to be able to describe the event live. Now there is communication. What it means is you have to be in constant communication with the organizers of the event to know what is going on and to specify the developments there for the development of your own team, for the preparedness of your own team or preparation of the coverage team. If it requires rehearsals, you have to be there. The OB manager or the man charged with that responsibility has to ensure that you have to be there to rehearse, see how, if it is parade, see how the parade will unfold, see how it will begin, see who will come in. You know how you are going to talk about it in such a way that you don't embarrass your organization. And that also is almost the same thing as what we call real-time monitoring of events, because being there will aid what you are going to do with your truck, that is your OB van, your OB truck. It has to do with what you are going to do with how you are going to enter the gate reserved for the quality of accreditation card that you are holding. And then the OB manager has to be in charge of that. That's what we call vendor management. In case you don't have everything provided by your organization, say for instance, it's an event where you are bringing people and you say, okay, you have to provide them with chairs or tables. Then you have to make sure that those things are there and they are packed. For instance, if you have to involve maybe catering for your crew, let's say like the election broadcast, where you don't want to rely on the food or drink provided by INEC, you have to engage some catering person, and then you have to manage the access to the drink of the caterer, distribution of the food and drink while the caterer is there. You have to make sure that all these things go seamless without interruption. Then there is risk management, getting you to the event, getting you outside the event, outside of the event venue. In the case of, for instance, violence, it is the duty of the outside broadcast manager, and that must be part of what is to be discussed at the planning level. Then we are talking about contingency. Contingency means making available your coverage plan to some other members of the coverage team. For instance, in case of Radio Nigeria, let us say you have a match to be covered, an international match to be covered at the Next of Champions in Uyo, and you don't have an OB truck that is capable enough to do a delivery of broadcast that you can be proud of. You have to send your coverage plan to Uyo from Abuja ahead of your arrival there, so that in case you are kidnapped on the way, God forbid, or there is an accident on the way that prevents your getting there physically, somebody else can be in charge or aware of the plans you have for the coverage, and then continue from where that is going to happen, why the broadcast is going to happen. Somebody must be in the know of what you are planning, so that if there is a failure, there can be continuity. You may not have to repay, you may not have to pay back those who have paid for that coverage. There may be a hold up, for instance, a terrible one. If I am permitted, I can tell you some of my experiences. In fact, there was one that Dr. Emeka Odiku and I had to cover in Ibugwala Ogun in Yewa town, in Yewa state town, involving the president in his home state. What we did to get there was so much that we just began in the nick of time. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later too. There's supposed to be what we call a studio support. That's what I'm calling it. You know, anything that is electronic can develop fault at any time. Even the OB van may not be there at the time that you expect it to be there. But if you have a setup in the studio, if there is a failure or there is a delay, you know, in Nigeria, we have so much tendency for indiscipline that what is meant to begin at 9 a.m. will begin at 1. And, you know, since it is government, they won't want to own up to their inadequacy. So you have to find a way of, if you cannot begin to describe, find some people to analyze for you at the studio end, and make sure that if you need to now totally get out of that broadcast environment, which is remote, to your broadcast station, you have involved the broadcast station. So they are in the know of the problems you are facing. And somehow they will patch an already broken wall for you. And when we talk about debriefing, we are talking about what some of us would prefer to call post-mortem, in which case you take a look at your performances on location, and then talk about things that you didn't do well, things you need to improve on, things that the broadcast has unfolded to you, and then find a way of making amends in the event of having yet another broadcast, maybe in the future. So these are the things we need to know about the management of outside broadcast. There may be other things that, because no one man can encapsulate everything. There may be some other things now that I may not be able to talk about, but that a person like Dr. Odipo may be wanting to talk about, like some addendum to this that I've had, but these are very central to outside broadcast management for seamless performance and execution. OB has a very formidable history. Began in the 1920s, the very early 1920s, up to where we are now. There are very many innovations that this has witnessed in terms of the technology deployed to coverage of events. There was the time of trucks. Now we have flyaway kits. We have what we call BGAN, that is broadband global access network. But I am not an engineer. I may not be able to tell you in depth about this, but I have been involved in such a way that if an event is going to fail, I can know. I can tell you this and this. If you apply them, they may not gel, they may not work out for you. But again, we also got to a point where you are telling your director that, this is an impending disaster coming. And then your director tells you, let the disaster happen. When it happens, then you will know that I'm the director here. When we get to such point, then we began to notice that maybe we are getting to the end of this. But thank God we are still here. We have done our bit, we have done our part. We have departed Radio Nigeria, but we are still available in terms of consultation, in terms of adding value to some of the things you want to do, in terms of outside broadcast. So maybe for now, I should allow some reactions and see how we have performed so far, and see whether there's need for us to add some other insights or some other perspectives. Thank you very much for now.
Thank you very much, Sina Abimbola, one of the very best commentators on radio around us today. It's so good to have you share with us your thoughts on outside broadcast management, seamless performance, and execution. I learned a lot, and maybe I should start the questions for myself. When you talked about the briefing, and you were telling us that the briefing is talking about post-mortem. I was wondering, when you said the briefing, at what point do you brief your team on what to do, where to act, how to go about your business when you are out there? That's my first question. And then I'll tell everyone here present to kindly put up their visual hand so that I can recognize you and you can ask your question. You can also make a comment or help us to learn more from your wealth of experience. Thank you so much. To you, Abimbola Sina, please.
Yeah, Titu, if you are following me with
my name is Fantastic Bibi. You're missing me up with Titu. My name is Fantastic Bibi.
Sorry, Fantastic Bibi. Sorry, Bibi. Sorry. Bibi.
Yes.
Fantastic, yes, you are fantastic.
Thank you.
Bibi, you know, when you say debriefing means the point at which you begin to expect another kind of set of instruction. In which case, the briefing you had before doing an assignment, before going to perform an assignment, has ended. The briefing means now let us look at some other things coming. This one has ended. Now, how did we perform? That's why I said it's either referred to as the debriefing or post-mortem. Post-mortem in the sense that you want to look at how you perform, how your operatives carried out their assignment. Actually, that is supposed to be the duty of the OB manager, to see whether some of the things he told you about the event, whether you acted in tandem with those things that he told you about them. And lessons learned from this. If, for instance, you didn't do it, okay, let me give you, for instance, an example. One of the reasons the OB van has to be ahead of you is to be able to live up to the directive or the instruction of the OB manager as to the positioning of the microphones that you are going to use. If your microphone is directly in front of a speaker, that will be held back. So the audio is not likely to be clear on your station. So why not do that by arriving earlier, by even being involved in the rehearsal, so that you know where the OB van will be? Do you know that there are even events whereby you attend and the members of the DSS will tell you that no, you cannot be there because where you are, the agbada that the president will spot will be affected by your microphone, by your cable that is on the ground. Just for them to tell you that we are in charge here, they can destroy everything that you have planned for. So if you see that, for instance, as an OB manager, at the point of debriefing of your colleagues, they can look at that and see what method we will be using later to position our OB man in such a way that it doesn't affect the president. Where, for instance, somewhere in Gombe, where we had difficult problem accessing the location where they said they were looking for oil. The NNPC took us there. We had already, everything was there. Then one man from DSS just came and said, no, the president was flying in and he wouldn't like to even see your van there. So we had been there 2 days before the event. So I'm just telling you that the briefing is the failures we learned, performances you have done very well, that the things you need to improve upon, that you need to repeat in subsequent events, outside broadcast events, the things you need to avoid while preparing for another set of. This would have been discussed at the planning period of this, where you think about budgeting, that is how much is going to get you there, the volume of fuel to buy to put in the OB to take you there. If you need to change tires, you need to change tires for the truck. If you are envisaging, for instance, another type of way of bringing the broadcast to your station, because in some remote locations, you may just need what we call fly-away kit. Your OB van will be there, but special transmission line will not be established between the station and the OB van. So if you need, for instance, say IP, what we call internet protocol kind of broadcast, you will have to have planned for all those ones. And then at the end of the day, you see whether that happens, whether that one worked well for you or didn't work well. If it didn't work well for you, you have to find another way of doing this same thing in subsequent broadcast. And I don't know whether I make sense to you there. Did it?
Oh, yes, you did. And maybe we give room for others to now make their contributions. Our very revered colleagues, the floor is open for your contributions, your comments, and then he will take the questions and answer them for us. Anyone?
Okay, Bibi,
Yes,
this is Emeka Odiko.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can I
please shoot. Please? Yes, please shoot.
Okay. Yeah, Shino, well done. Let me quickly say I recognize Mohammed Bello and Niola Olatunji, their colleagues, closer colleagues, so to say. I'm doing Parapo now. Shino, there's a question somebody asked me. I want to ask you that question. Let me know your reaction. Do we have old OB and new OB? Do we have old OB and new OB? And my answer, what I answered was yes. The old OB is when you talk of planning, preparation, and all that, as depicted by FRCN, NTA, VON, and so on and so forth. The new OB is the new TV stations and radio stations. No planning, just rush in there, put the microphone on, and you start commentary. In some cases, you put the microphone and all the background information and the introduction and everything will now emanate from the MC. So it's MC-induced OB. That was my answer, that yes, the MC-induced OB is the new OB, while the old OB is, you talk of the nomenclature, you talk of the commentator, OB manager, and so on and so forth. You mentioned the issue of flyaway kits. Yes, we are in the era of flyaway kits. We are in the era of Google Plus and so on and so forth. All the podcast equipment and all that. Calvin is there, and he is into podcasts and so on and so forth. He may not be very well interested in most of these things we are talking about, the old OB. He is of the new OB. So is there a way, that we can marry the two? Now that we have seen that it's inevitable that there must be a synergy between the old OB and the new OB. Don't take it to town. This is my own expression, old OB and new OB, before they get angry somewhere. Okay, let me end for now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Emeka Odipo. So over to you, Shino.
Before,
okay, Titi, you want to say something?
I'd like to add, just like an addendum to what Dr. Odipo said. He mentioned the new OB and the old OB. Now, I understand that outside broadcast is the electronic production of programs from a mobile studio outside. Yeah. In the light of modern, modern technologies, is outside broadcast as we used to know it necessary? When you can just take your phone to the venue, you don't need the bulky van with a lot of personnel on ground. What are your thoughts on this?
Wonderful. Thank you, Titi. Thank you for that. Yes, before you answer the question, our mentors will always teach us. Special recognition to Pauline Godaga and Christy Joseph. And thank you, Prolific Ifi and Osasu Obaiwana, for coming on this training. Thank you very much. I recognize every single person on this platform. Thank you, Unique. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so over to you, Sina Abimbola.
Before Shina will talk,
okay, sir.
Now, you see, this topic is very interesting to me because in 1989, I was to use it for my master's thesis in UI. I wanted to write on outside broadcast, and I consulted Tolu Fatoyinbo. Most of us know Tolu Fatoyinbo. And I consulted with Ernest Okonkwo. Those were my two mentors in the profession. They advised against it, that when it comes to the technical area, Shino, are you with me? Shino, can you hear me?
I am. I can hear you. I'm even seeing you.
They said the technical area is where I may be grounded academically, the technical area. But when I wanted to do my master's for theology in 2017, I talked about live streaming. And in my research, I said the church will be on the palm in the next 15, 20 years. And we know what this is. Even in churches, they are now doing live streaming, which is an aspect of OB and outside broadcast. Now, let's talk about something. Please note, one of the experiences I had was I was working for OGBC and my closeness with Radio Nigeria Ibadan. We wanted to cover the Ogun State Sports Festival. I can't remember the year, but I think it should have been 1981 or 82. Now, in those days, you know that we have to go and consult P&T, Post and Telecommunication, to rig line for us to do our transmission through telephone. I'm talking about radio now, I'm not talking about television. Through telephone lines. That's what we used to do. You are involved. We were together at that time. So I had a problem contacting P&T on behalf of Radio Nigeria. I'm an old school. I don't know how you do it now, to get the thing on, please note that and explain that to us. Teach us that aspect. What is the modern way of doing it? I have a feeling you don't use P&T again. I have a feeling. I don't know, but I want to know. Now, another thing is, many of the times, me and you, we were stringers. Abi, Emeka, we're all stringers. Stringers, let's give the modern people what stringers mean. Stringers are those people, those hands that give the commentators information. That give the commentators information. They will write on paper for us. You won't even know they are passing information to us. Huh? Do we still have stringers today? Do we still use stringers today? Because you are talking about, you and Emeka, you're talking about MC-oriented information channels. That the information the commentator should have given us is from the MC. So do we still use stringers today? Because some of us, we rose from the level of stringers. Me, you, Dado, Gundele, and Co, you know what I'm talking about. I remember Richard Ashegu. There was Makinde in Radio Lagos, and all those people in the early 80s. Now, that's the second one I'm talking about. You know, the first one I talked about P&T. The second one I talked about stringers. And the third one is technical. You were also talking about the technical aspect. That was the aspect that enunciates me. We are from programs department, or is it, you want to call it news department? And we from programs or news department, we are not supposed to be carrying cables. In those days at the Liberty Stadium, they make us to carry cables. They make us to do engineering works. Is it still something? Because that was a big discouragement to me. You know, I don't know what football is today. In those days, they will make us to come to the stadium around 10. And by 12, we can go when our OB lines are ready. We have done our testing. And then we'll come back. We are supposed to come back at 4. But in those days at the Liberty Stadium, woe betides you if you come back at 3. Because there will be no entrance for you to enter. The whole place is filled up. You remember, you know, that even the staircase to our OB point at 3 o'clock, you may not have access to the OB point up at the Liberty Stadium. Many times it was Chief Lekan Salami, sorry, that used to help us to get headway. And the one that concerns me, because I don't want to raise my hand again, whether in print or outside broadcast, I see the lack of research-oriented commentaries. One of the greatest things that made Ernest Okonkwo, and which he taught us at the training school, I mean, Radio Nigeria Training School, I'm sorry for others, Radio Nigeria Training School, which I also went to, is that as a commentator, you must have evidence of research on whatever you are going to do, whether it's ceremonial, whether it's sports. But I see that lacking. Now over to you, Sina Abimbola.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Eniola Olatunji, formerly known as Kasim. Yes.
Yomi Kazim.
Thank you. Yomi Kazim. Thank you so much. Please, sir, I would like to recognize Abiodun Ukidon and Glory Ohago. We'll take your comments.
How are you?
We'll take your comments, please. But let's Abimbola, Sina Abimbola answered these questions. There's a long thread of them already. Please. Thank you so much. Now over to you, Sina Abimbola.
Bibi, since I am in the studio doing continuity and then listening at the same time, could I just pick something in? Because I'll soon have to sign off a program and I'll be using my headphone. If you please.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Quickly.
Okay. Sainiola, the Maestro Shino, I greet you especially. Thank you very much. You've always been the voice and the face that guides us on this technocracy, as I call it. Siniola, you had said if there's still room for stringers. At least in recent times, I have had the opportunity to do outside broadcast for Voice of Nigeria. We might not have stringers, but we have reporters on the ground. And if you go earlier and set up properly, you would be at a vantage point to observe what is going on. You would be at a vantage point to observe what is going on and not having to rely on the MCs only. But be that as it may, every station must always have extra hands, especially the reporters covering the beats of that particular program, who know the faces and know the players who are there, which your eyes from your vantage point might have missed out. I'll come back after signing on my program, but thank you very much. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly talk about. Let me not make it. Let me not respond giving priority to who asked the first question, so that maybe I can drive towards that very shortly. The issue of stringing is what majority of us started with. You learn how to write stimuli, you learn how to go to the dressing rooms to get squad list, you know how to even write the sheet, the team sheet that you are going to use while in the commentary box. That is that. Now, as to whether we have singers or not, we have, but these are not strictly formally appointed singers. If, for instance, you work with me, and I'm going to have a major part to play in an assignment, if you are not as high as me in terms of my, what is it called, my position in that organization that is delivering an outside broadcast assignment, then you also know that you have to provide me with enough information. That should have been the work of the OB manager. But in a situation whereby you have to bring people in who are going to be in charge of the budgeting of the broadcast that you want to do, and the person you are talking to is similar to you in hierarchy, and you are the OB manager, all you are telling the OB manager as products of the planning that you have done may not enter the ears of the accountant that is going to make sure money is available to you, and everything is down to money. Anyway, let me leave that one at that. Now, the one that we began with, which is either a new or old OB, Mohammed Bello, Yodo Ogidon, Emeka Odipo, Pius Osem, anybody that is of old school that is listening to me now will agree. In fact, Ostazo Obayo 1 or 2 will agree with me that the reason we knew Ernest Okonkwo, Kevin Ejiofor, Emeka Odipo, Richard Atiebu, Pius Osem was because this P&T thing, the Post and Telegraph thing that Eniola Olatunji talked about, was working for us. It made our signals come out so clean and clear that it is even possible for some people to now be able to quote Ernest Okonkwo in print. To say this is what, even though some of those things are exaggerated, but these are some of the things he did while alive. Engineering has been wayward for Nigeria. Now, Emeka Odipo will attest to this. In South Africa, when we went for the 2010 World Cup, there was a major demand by the engineers of FIFA and South Africa Broadcasting Association, South Africa Broadcasting Corporation, who were on the ground to midwife the broadcast to Nigeria. They asked us a simple question. They said, oh, are you ISDN compliant? Our engineers had to drop the phone because we brokered a kind of conversation between them and the South African end. They said, what is ISDN? We who were there later knew that ISDN is Integrated Service Digital Network. We were not there then. So our engineer had to drop his phone. He had to drop his mouthpiece. Then we now agreed with them to now let us use telephone to deliver the broadcast to Nigeria. They were not thinking, telephone was like the second thought for them. But anyway, we did it. And then if we had used something else, let's say we were plugged onto the ISDGN, which is the compatibility with print, with sound, with pictures, with all other things. If we had been plugged onto that, we probably would not have been broadcasting to Nigeria because our engineering as of that time had not reached that particular position. As for me, all the things, our being endeared to outside broadcast was as a result of the clarity of signal that PNT was able to give to us. And you, as Eniola, then your Mikazi, had a problem linking ODBC with PNT then, later known as NITEM, because you didn't really have the infrastructure to connect to them that would make their job very, very beautiful. So now let me go back to Mr. Odipo, Dr. Odipo. New OB, old OB. Old OB, just as you told us in your BGF training, old OB entails taking it beyond all reasonable doubts. Punctuality, research, accurate timing, don't tear things from your gut. Bring a pen and some paper or some notes into the stadium, into the commentary position, and so on, and be involved in everything. Don't just get aloof. All of these are characteristics of what we call the OB era, the old OB era. OB van, you are so sure that the link that will be given to you by P&T would work well. That was why some of us are still in love with OJ Nana. I don't know whether the man is alive, but God bless his soul. Yeah. Wherever he is. OJ Nana, aha. Unless Okonko would hardly do a broadcast without mentioning OJ Nana. But it was as a result of the clarity of the signal.
OJ Nana was from Enugu.
Okay. But now let's even do that. Let's now go back. Let's go straight to OB, new OB, old OB, with reference to where the MC takes the shine of the OB crew or the commentator. It is because there is sycophancy. 1, 2, there is inadequacy of technical disposition to what is being delivered on air. You listen to yourself. You know, one of the things you need to have as a commentator is listening to yourself while that thing is on, while your broadcast is on, through some earpieces or some headphones. You are listening to it, you are finding out that your voice is not even coming on. The one that is coming on is the one that they have even called you for. You need to do your own, you need to add your own to it, which is the results of your research. What have you done? How have you done it? And so on and so forth. That one needs to be added to it, but you can't hear it out. Then the one that you are hearing, and that is as a result of modulating from the mixer, from the studio manager. I'm not blaming them, but you know, the days of fantastic studio managers like Peter Igbona, like OJ Nana, like Buma Oturubio of Radio Nigeria, those days are gone. Now, coming back to the technicality of or the technology of it, everything by the woman is being made small now. But the cost of reducing big things to small things, you also have to pay. And broadcasting is not configured to do that in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, one of the questions asked by Otazu Obayuwana, who is a lawyer, one of the questions he had to ask on the TMH platform was, what is the essence of wasting time on outside broadcast when people trained there don't have the opportunity of exposing what they have learned? of even telling you this is how much I've learned. It is because government is not really interested in broadcasting. It's only interested in broadcasting to the extent of what it is going to give to the government in terms of unnecessary publicity. That is it. Maria Ode almost hit the nail on the head, but couldn't in her critique of what we make of outside broadcast now. Now, the era of having to pay to access content, to bring your content, the era of having to pay for access to events, for broadcasting events, is what actually is killing broadcasting, sports broadcasting in Nigeria. There may be an entirely training session for that. But the reason things are not looking up is because less and less money is being pumped, it's being put into broadcasting. And the money that is being put in it, at least maybe 25, let's say 50% of it is embedded. That is the thing. Those that are listening to this will tell you very readily. Some of them also reach up to management level. So they will tell you readily that what I'm saying is not Greek. They all know. All of these have come down very heavily on even broadcasting, that is conventional broadcasting. Not to talk about special one, which is outside broadcast, which is having to use your station and create a station elsewhere with a link with your station. Smaller things now make things. That was at the All Africa Games 2003. One BBC man just came, and I was wondering how he was going to file his report to London. Do you know he just came and brought one satellite, small satellite, very portable satellite. He just flew between us. All of us opened our mouth and started broadcasting, and it was seamless. So we need to take another look at how we can convince government to come into this in such a way that the procurement of some of these small gadgets can replace the heavy vehicular movements for outside broadcast, and then we get more training to our studio managers in such a way that they give parity to the commentator and not raise the vocal level of the announcer, and you are just just hearing yourself online. For now, let me see whether I have responded positively to some of the things that you have said. Listening. I'm listening.
If BB is not available, can I talk? Can you hear me, Shino?
I'm here.
All right. I wanted to say another thing, which is modern. If you permit me, I will wait until you permit me. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you. So I said, I just said thank you to Sina Abimbola, and I was asking Abiodun Ogidon to ask her question. Her virtual hand has been up a while. And
okay.
Then we take Osasu also. We can come back to you, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is Abiodun Ogidon speaking. I want to say,
let us see our face. So.
hello, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy for this opportunity, and then the organizers, let me commend you. I would also like to say, I'd like to make some comments and then also make some observations. First of all, I want to say, I want to appreciate the speaker, because right now in FRCN, we now have a full directorate for sports and outside broadcast. And beyond that, we have core operation staff, which we used to call OB managers, and then sport presenters and sport producers. But I want to say that from what has evolved over time, sports and outside broadcast has gone beyond just sports. Now we cover anniversaries, we cover demonstrations, we cover conferences, we cover political rallies. Beyond reporting sporting events, we cover concerts and church services, even exhibitions. So I want to say this before the old people in the house that FRCN has taken it beyond what it used to be. And we also have the rare privilege of making use of OB vans that have satellite, and we have some very strong equipment that are all digitized. And what those people experienced in the past, I think we have taken it to a greater level, which is a plus. But sincerely, I would like to say that we are still learning. We are still learning. We are still learning because all the facilities that we have now, we have to learn how to make use of it, because most of them are very small and simple, but they are very effective. So what my comment is that for those who are in FM stations who do not have the opportunity to go for training, maybe at the training school, like all the bosses in the house, it is important to familiarize yourselves with this equipment because they are there. Some few stations have it. For instance, when we covered the last election, I saw Channels TV came with something very, very small, but very, very effective, something similar to what Mr. Abimbola just described. And they also made use of it. It was very clean, very clear. Now, because we know OB is a specialized area, and then there are so many things that one needs to know, it is important that our training school or the veterans in the house should assist broadcasting to also focus on that area. Because for me, I have been a programs person all my life. We just know OB to be one unit then. We used to follow the likes of Tolufa Toyinbo to the stadium to cover all form of events. But now it is a full-fledged directory that requires more knowledge, more learning, more skills, and more talent. But what we have currently in the country, we have quite a number of radio stations, and most of the people even heading the stations do not have insight and deep understanding of what it is. So I want to encourage our veterans to, from time to time, work with NBC, pretending all broadcast, and then maybe one state to another, we all have platforms, allow this kind of training to go on so that a lot of people will be able to gain more knowledge. I recognize all my bosses in the house. I recognize the veterans. I recognize the knowledge that you have impacted. But I'm particular about one thing, and this is my question. It has to do with broadcast rights. Now we've commenced the Olympics, and we know this broadcast right has been an issue over time. So most of the time, most stations would like to cover some specific events, especially when it comes to sports. But if the authorities, you don't have the broadcast right, which you must pay for, it's always very difficult. Is there a way to go about it? That's one. The second thing I want to also mention is what Mr. Eniola talked about the other time, and Uncle Shino has also spoke about it, about you making use of the Nitel lines. Now what we use most of the time are these telecommunication organizations. We either buy MTN, Airtel, Glo, but there is an opportunity for you to switch from one network to another. Because we have the privilege of the satellites anyway, if the network is not strong, I don't know how many other stations have that rare opportunity and privilege. So I would like you to touch on those two areas. Thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much, Sas.
Thank you, Abiodun Gideon. And I do hope, probably I'm inviting you to the Media Hub. We'll talk after this training session. Thank you for those questions and the insights you have shared.
Baby, my hand is still up.
Oh, okay, love. But just before you, can I take Osasu. His hand has been up a while.
Okay.
Osasu, please. Obaiwana.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been listening keenly to what everyone has been saying. And please pardon, I'm just shutting the door. And I decided to just listen because from a professional point of view, I haven't done OB broadcasting in a Nigerian environment. Everything I've done with regards to doing OBs have always been, with the BBC. So that's the only system I know. Yes, I heard Ogashino talking about the All Africa Games in 2003. And he was making mention of when he saw my colleague, and I'm sure that must have been Farai Mungazi, because he was the one who the office sent to cover the All Africa Games with Jenny Horrocks and one of our OB managers, one of our studio managers, we call them SMs, because whenever there's any such assignments, an SM will always be sent with the broadcasters to take care of the technical issues. So yeah, I know what you were referring to. You're talking of the mobile satellite phone and the connection which we use in hooking up to the studio. Yes, so that's what they use. And yes, it's quite efficient. But most times, if there is an ISDN line, that was always preferred because the quality is better and you can always be assured of the integrity of the line when you broadcast. I would say I will just address some issues that the last speaker was asking, Shino, which I can answer with regards to the acquisition of rights for sports events, which obviously would increase the number of OBs you do when you do have to do live sport. The problem in Nigeria, as I see it, is that the public broadcasters have no funding, very little funding. And you can't acquire sports rights without funding to buy them. As the public broadcaster anywhere in the world, public broadcasters get funding to acquire sports rights either from a license fee, which the public will pay to use the service, or government makes a budgetary allocation every year. And when you have rights that are to be acquired in certain years, then, accommodations, financial accommodations will be made in order to acquire those rights. And it's quite sad in Nigeria that the public broadcasters don't do this anymore. And the primary reason is that the government is not funding them to do it. So I don't know how the FRCN and the NTA are going to do live sport when they are not being given the finances to acquire the rights. Although I heard that the NTA do have rights for the Olympics, so I hope for people who do have to watch the Olympics through the NTA that they do get some decent coverage through it. On a technical side of OBs, there are two sides of it. Obviously, you have the journalists on one side, and you have the technical people on the other side. Obviously, for the journalist, you just want to focus on doing your job, preparing your running order, making sure that you have an idea of what you're going to do on the day, ensuring that the OB gives you good connection to studio so that everything goes smoothly. So if you don't, as the journalist, you really don't want to focus too much on the technical side. If you have a good SM, that's his job, and he should focus on doing all of that. But I think the problem nowadays is because a lot of stations are cutting down on staff, they are now forcing journalists to actually do the technical stuff in addition to doing the broadcasting as well. And if you're not doing an OB that is uncomplicated, that can be really difficult. And it's, I don't know how people really deal with that now. And I'm actually really fascinated to hear more from those of you who have worked more in the Nigerian environment, how you cope with these things. Oga Emeka was making mention of new OBs and old OBs. In the old OBs, as you made mention, obviously broadcasters were trained. Most of you were trained, from, by people who either had to, learn their craft at the FRCN training school, or some of you actually went to the BBC training school and came back to Nigeria and then used those values in your work. So obviously you had a totally different ethos. And you were Ogashino was making mention of how they used to have to make plans, how they will make budgets, how everything will be organized in time. Those were in the days when you actually had budgets that you could rely on. So, and then you had more certainty in terms of the definition of your work environment. So if you knew you had to do this on a certain day, you could plan in advance. I understand these days that sometimes broadcasters are asked to do OBs at a moment's notice, maybe 24 hours notice, 48 hours notice. And if the broadcaster, especially a private broadcaster, their primary consideration is the money they are going to earn per hour of broadcast, they just want to get there and do, make sure that they have a stream, so they can get the money from the customer. And most times, what the customer is interested in is having the publicity for their event. They're not particularly concerned about the quality of the broadcasting or what is done to prep for it, as long as they're able to get their information out or what they want to do out. So it's I don't know. I mean, maybe I can hear from those who are actually still in the business in Nigeria, who are working at a more senior level. Is there any hope, or are there any conversations being had to make those who are responsible for the financing of public broadcasting know that if things like OBs are to improve and the qualities of those doing OBs are to improve, they are meant to have more events to do so that they can learn and they actually have a way to hone their craft? I mean, there are lots of other things I could raise, but let me stop there so I don't go on and on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obaiwana. Thank you so much for that input. Your question is really heavy. I'll leave it to Sina Abimbola, but just before that, I would like to recognize Ambrose Shomide, the Jojo Mini Jojo. When I was quite young, I used to really enjoy that program. Thank you so much for joining us. He's asking that he goes off, and of course we are permitting him. He's been on with us since we started the program. A quick one from the chat box. Thank you so much for this refreshing session. One issue that is very common with some of our commentators is the inability of some of them to pronounce names. I want to say that our commentators should be trained in the act of presentation to a great extent, so they don't bastardize names of people on air. Very germane, very, very important. I also have here, I would like to encourage the veterans in the house to focus more on impacting new commentators on the commentary skills. You may want to consider this in subsequent lecture. All right, thank you so much. That is noted. There's so much to do, really. And then I have a question, and that question is to Biodun Ogidon. So you've got to speak again, Abiodun. How come we aren't seeing those strides being actualized as listeners of sports commentary are used to? What you talked about, the improvements, in fact, that you have a new directorate meant for OB in FRCN. Why are we not seeing those strides being actualized as listeners of sports commentary are used to. So all of these, we have to look at them. We have just 30 minutes, and we'll be rounding off. Thank you so much. To you, Glory Ohagu.
Thank you once again, Bibi. Thank you for giving me the privilege and to come back again. Oh, Saza, one thing I've always wondered is how the BBC has managed to, over time, attract new generation of listeners to its station, and then we still get to listen to them. But that brings me to one critical concern that I think we need to look at. As things change, language changes. And I'm sure that everyone who brings in an event for Obi wants the numbers too. They need the numbers. So in an era of media convergence and where younger people are most often now can't sustain attention, how do we engraft and tweak language to graft in new generation of listeners, new demographic of listeners as commentators on outside broadcast? It doesn't matter what the program is, whether it is sports, whether it is festivities, whether it's the protest or whatever. How do we make this happen? And do you think, Mr. Shino, that the time has come to have a total overhaul of the broadcast commentary curriculum? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a question to answer?
Yes, please. Your question is, how has the BBC been able to bring in new demographic of listeners over time?
Well, I mean, I can only answer that question based on what I gather from the public domain, since I'm not there anymore. But it's quite clear that podcasting has become a new way, because one of the problems of broadcasting these days are that people are very busy, and younger people hardly have time to listen to programming at the time you want it to go out. So obviously, if you do a podcast, people can listen to it whenever they want. And if they are really interested in it, they would keep on listening to those podcasts. In some cases, I mean, for live broadcasting, I don't know how you can really change the way it is done, because if you're covering a live event and it is going to be of an extended duration, you can't shorten it for anybody. So those who want to listen to it are going to listen to it because they are interested in it. If you want people to follow the meaty parts of what went on, obviously you can do an edit, you can do a news piece, and obviously it can be on the internet and people can listen to it whenever they wish to do. But I would also say that right now the BBC is also having the challenge of maintaining listeners as well. Because when the BBC was dominant, the media landscape gave them the room to be dominant. Now there are so many other broadcasters doing. Are you still hearing me? Okay. Okay. So yes, there are. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was still being heard. I'm just saying that there are other broadcasters now offering so many other alternatives. So there is a lot more choice. And when you have more choice, sometimes there's not much you can do about maintaining your audience numbers. Sometimes it's about keeping a core group of listeners who are actually interested in what you are putting out. So obviously you need to pay more attention to your audience research and find out what it is your audience want to listen to and what they don't want to listen to. I mean, with regards to the training of broadcasters, whether it is for OB or anything, everything comes from those who are responsible for policy at the very top. The managing directors of the broadcasting houses, the boards of the broadcasting organizations, they have to sit down and take a decision on what is important. And then they have to convince their funders that it is important to fund these things. I think the huge problem we have now is that we have people who are in government who really don't understand what it is to be a public broadcaster. There's a huge difference between being a state broadcaster and a public broadcaster. A state broadcaster's job is to work on behalf of the government. A public broadcaster could be funded either by the public or directly by the government, but its ethos is to serve the public, not the government, but the public. So if there is an ethos that broadcasters have a duty to educate, to entertain, and to inform, and that they have to put out high quality output, and that it has to be well funded so they can do a good job, then the issue of training would not be an issue. But until you actually resolve it from the upper policy, it's going to be very, very difficult to change things.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Osasu. Thank you for that very good insight. Okay, so before I take just Eniola Olatunji, can we quickly ask our facilitator to respond to other questions, especially that by Abiodun Ogidon? Sina Abimbola, over to you, please. Facilitator, Sina Abimbola, are you still there?
I think he's muted.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is Biodun Ogidon. Sorry, can I say something? Because somebody asked me that, oh yeah, okay, why Badachina is coming, preparing to join us. One lady asked why is it that they don't feel that much impact from FRCN anymore. And I will say is as it is. The first thing is the fact that yes, we have digital equipment, but most of our stations still make use of the old transmitters. And that is a fact. We make use of the old transmitters that have not been changed. And as a result, when you are broadcasting or you're using a very modern digital equipment, and the final output that you send it out is not compatible, we have this problem. Then another reason is because of taste and preference. A lot of people are not really interested in listening to sports commentaries on radio anymore. They would rather prefer to sit behind the huge screen and watch the match. They only have to opt for radio if maybe they are stuck in traffic and they're yet to get home or get to a place to sit. So people now have options, a lot of options. Gone are the days of FRCN and NTA enjoying the monopoly of broadcasting. Although most other stations may not cover events live, but sometimes when we are running the commentaries live, people are busy watching TV, and that is the truth. One other thing that I would like to add is about what the gentleman from BBC talked about, policy, and then funding. Gone are the days when we have so much money that it's channeled towards achieving a successful outside broadcast, and then you even know you have a vote, and you will plan ahead, and then the staff are sponsored to go cover those events. Now somebody observed that of course you have the table, you have the timetable, you know this event is going to run, but you have to wait to get orders to say, okay, move, even after you have done your research and preparation, because you have to obey the last order. And finally, so I won't take a lot of your time, it has to do with the fact that sometimes also we get to the venue because we are also doing some of the things that the commercial stations are doing. We get to the venue. If it is not a government event, we have to record the event and then return to the station to broadcast later. So, of course, it is outside broadcast, but sometimes we record and then you have to broadcast later because probably while you want to cover it, there is a ministerial briefing or there is a presidential assignment, and then we have to cut off. That is the number one responsibility that we take. So those are the reasons that one may say that you don't get to feel those things effectively on radio. On FRCN, I'm talking of FRCN specifically, it's slightly different now. So we play by the rule. Thank you, as I welcome Odashino to please respond to my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Okay, so Sina Abimbola, you're back.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good to have you back. And also, can I quickly chip in this? I want to welcome Austin Ilewedalu, the immediate past director news from Voice of Nigeria. Joined us while we were on questions and answers. Austin Ilewedalu, unmute yourself and say hello to the house. Welcome to this platform. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Okay, so back to you.
Yeah, there are so many things to respond to now. So if I don't take yours, it is not because I'm being following you. It's because most of my duties have been handled very effectively by Osazu Obayuwan. Dr. Obino, I know you hold a PhD too, and at the initial stage, I was excited at the prospects of being listened to by holders of PhD, including Emeka Odipo and the rest of us. Let me first of all say it is not true that people will jettison radio and be watching TV. Some of them who do that also put radio to their ear because radio provides more information than what television will tell you. I remember Emeka Odipo telling us the last time that what% of what you anticipate on television, you cannot get it because radio will give you, because it is assumed that you have seen 98% of what you are following on TV. There are those who still want more information that will enrich the experience of watching television, who say plug their transistorized sets to their ears. I remember Ladisha Shadari listening to radio while watching Nigeria live in Lagos at the final of the 1980 recognitions. The radio is the participants, those who are supposed to work with you on radio, and those who are even supposed to fund you don't understand what you are doing at all. They don't even see why money should come to broadcasting, whether radio or television. Radio is the people's company, and the way it is handled, you need to even give kudos to, let's say, a radio commentator. Now, there are so many secrets, trade secrets, that we cannot reveal here. Only Bugaga can tell you how we covered the 2006 Cup of Nations in their studios there, pretending that all of us were in Egypt. And that's how the thing was in Egypt. But he also will tell you how one of the people he led there refused to hear reasons why he was to be in the stadium before the arrival of Osman. The guy said, "What is that?" But he was locked out by the authorities in Egypt. We know that we need money. For instance, there are so many people who are working for radio stations, for Born, Radio Nigeria, and other stations, who don't know why they're there and why they are being paid. If you ask them why you are here, what are you here? They don't know. And that's why I am happy at the distinction being made by Osazu between public broadcasting and state broadcasting. And when you juxtapose that to what we call commercial broadcasting, commercial broadcasting that we see in Ibadan, Lagos, and so on, you see that there's a whole wide. Shortly before I retired, I was to meet somebody who has a broadcast station in Ibadan here. And when he called me and I told him some of the reasons that would make me work with him, of course, he had to discuss with me. But I told him that if you must have a station, the popularity of your programs will determine how far you are going to go. Yeah, the man was telling me about money almost immediately, so we couldn't work together. Now, there are those who are listening to this broadcast, to this training. One of them is Mohammed Bello. He also briefly director of programs in Radio Nigeria. We always have sections to talk about professionalism and so. But how much of this will our sponsor, government, how much of this will they buy? We are giving you your daughter's notebook. We are giving you your pen. We are giving you your microphone. We are giving you your recorder. What are you talking about paying for access to broadcasts? Don't tell us that. And we had a way of solving this problem through them with the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria. So we improved resources to go and buy access rights and access to that. The latter is only still in the way of us getting there. Radio and television sports broadcasting in Nigeria was very, very, very slowly. Well, we are now, and it will take some measure of very serious intervention to bring back viral sports broadcasting, to bring validity to sportscasting in Nigeria. Now, before I forget, outside broadcast in television is not even called outside broadcast. It is called electronic field production. One of us drew our attention to that, but I thought I should also have said that, but because this one is spontaneous, it is difficult. Let me now rest this one as I know that we are approaching the terminal point of this exercise, and then see whether some other views and perspectives can come in shortly before we exit. Thank you very much.
Wow, we're so grateful, especially the way you, like a great broadcaster you are, you ran off just at the right time, just at the nick of time. Thank you so much for all you've been able to impact on us today. Mohammed Bello has something to say, and then maybe Eniola will round off for us. Mohammed Bello, sir, are you still there to share with us one or two things? Mohammed Bello?
Okay. Can you hear me? Can I go ahead?
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, please go ahead, sir. Nice to see your face. In a spotty...
I hope it's not too ugly.
We are.
Uncle Kazim, it's nice seeing Ogeniola after such a long time. I enjoy your write-up all the time, and I save some in my system. Good morning, my dear colleagues. Like I said, outside broadcast, sports, etc., are areas that I'm quite familiar with. But where I want to go is this. I agree totally with Dr. Emeka Odibo that there's the old OB and the new OB. Or Sasu chuckle at that anyway, but that is the truth. The reality on the ground for broadcasters now is that, look, they know, the experts know that the audience don't have the time to sit down and listen to a live broadcast that is probably not sports, that is probably not a swearing-in ceremony, that is probably not a political rally of your preference. People want to hear the events as they unfold as quickly as possible. And then production editors now on television and radio have now detailed reporters on the field to do what is quote unquote interactive. Professionally, what they are being asked to do is commentating from location, from events, and all that. But the truth is that these reporters are used to going for an assignment, jotting down, leaving the place, do their write-up, cut their sound bites or sound effects as it were, and then produce before airing. But now they are being asked spontaneously to report between 5 to 10 minutes. You know, and what they are doing is actually commentating, and it's the right way to go. Are we ready? I think to some extent, yes, we are ready, but we're not prepared. These people need to be trained. You know, they need to be trained. In those days, the mere fact that you are a good newscaster, a good newsreader, does not automatically translate to being a good commentator. So the mere fact that you are a reporter, call it in the old order, and I want to believe us too will agree with me, where you need time to put your thoughts together, read it, put your sound bites, your sound effects, your musical effects, whatever it is, and then it is now pre-recorded and broadcast. It's now different with commentating. And I think that is the way to go. But the veterans, the trainers, the institutes need to design a curriculum. They need to design a syllabus to prepare our producers on the field, our reporters, especially our reporters on the field. And indeed, even the anchors, the DCAs, must know how to link up with reporters on the field. I totally agree that, look, there is the new OB out there, and it is the right way to go, but we must be prepared for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The great MB. We are grateful for that.
Let me chip in.
Yes.
Do you mind if I could I
yes,
step
please
in,
go
please?
ahead.
This one that Alhaji Mohammed Bello about meeting with reporters doing interviews and so on. It's not I already said. It is not new to us. The matter of that, anybody that is a continuity person, no, even the basis of his or her ability as a potential commentator. Is it? You see, for instance, if there is an accident now, cameras are there, reporters are there already working and translating it immediately. So you are correct to even say, or it is as a matter of this, some of the reasons some of us don't even have interviews. Because some of the things happening in the environment where you are going. Instead of interviewing you for this. You are not aware of it. And that also is why each of the gadgets we are using is getting more and more transistorizable or transistorized. We are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. More reflecting that the dangerous ones that our ministers of information will want you to deploy to an event where something is happening to Ministry of Information. Let me leave it at that for now.
Very funny, really. Okay, so we about to round off. We have less than 9 minutes to go off now, according to our broadcast time. I have Eniola Olatunji round off with his last input. Yes. Is it still here? Yes. Thank you, sir.
I'm here. Let's
you.
start from somebody who mentioned something about pronunciations. There is a way we dodge it. For example, Brazil is playing at the Olympics now. How many of us know the real name of Pelé? We always call it Pele. Pele. His name is not Pele. His name is Pele. And his real name, Pele, is a nickname. Most Brazilian players, male and female, they have nicknames. So it's better for you just go to their popular nicknames. They are more popular. They play in clubs. And they bear those nicknames. Like the real name of Pele is Edson Narento do Nascimento. That's too long. When you're on commentaries, it's too long. So just go to Pele. Now, there's something that is of a great concern to me. And I think academics like Emeka Odibo and those who are there, we are already doing it in journalism platform. Raf Akinfele, a great journalism lecturer, is helping us to handle that. Now, what do I mean? How does the studio and the tower, the studio and the tower, when I say tower, I mean the academic institutions. How do they collaborate? How do they synergize for the advancement of knowledge of present broadcasters? Maybe Biodo Gidon can also answer that. She is also into academics. And then I want to ask people like Biodo Gidon, those who are in the management right now, what is the problem with Radio Nigeria in broadcasting sports, especially football, both locally and foreign? We don't hear them. What is the problem? Is it only the broadcast rights? Over to you.
Let's please.
No, let me just quickly respond to what Ogeniola said. First question, yes, I'm aware. I worked on that committee with Professor Akinfele when I went to Lagos, because there is a plan by the federal government to unbundle the study of mass comm in all universities.
Yeah.
And the plan says that professionals from the field who have gathered the experience over the years should be given opportunity to come into classrooms and take practical courses and show the students how things are done. It was approved. But when it came to the point of implementation, only few universities were able to start it. And because most of them claim they do not have the facilities, NUC told them to commence those courses that they know they can function with currently. Some people are already into print, some into broadcast, some into public relations, but it has not taken on fully in the country. That's the first question. The second one, the problem with FRCN is enormous. One, government funding. Two, over the years, training has not been the way it used to be. When I joined FRCN, before I even put my mouth on the microphone, I was sent to the training school. These days, we get people, and then although we do daily and weekly training on the job, but the most of the staff have not been trained. And then we know that this profession runs on skills and talent. Just like somebody rightly observed, it is not just about knowing how to speak. It's about knowing the right thing to say. So getting the talent, government they've not employed new set of hands in a long time. And we always refer back to our bosses to come back and train us. Mr. Abimbola has been to FRCN Ibadan. When I assumed position as management staff in sport and as to train us for more than 6 times. We are always calling on him to train the commentators. We even go out. So those of us who are still left in the system are doing our best. But generally, I think the problem is from the top. That is the answer, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I have less than 3 minutes.
And then between people who don't have any business in broadcasting into it. These are some of the problems. I know, so this man, even if I have not once you take charge of my case, I can end up anywhere. You talk to them and them into broadcasting. What is he going to achieve? Please don't let me waste your time.
I know how passionate you are about the crop of broadcasters, journalists, media professionals that are now coming on board.
Sorry. See, if I knew that writing the memo that would establish, that would sever sports and OB, what it used to be, it would not be established this way. We even have written it. So when we said, okay, let's see how some people can move up and so on. By the time that memo was approved by the establishment, that to throw all manner of distancing that kind of endeavor from people who can help it, who can even provide money. Government is not even doing its best. I'm just telling you that broadcasting as what it should be. Thank you.
On that note, I'd like to call Calvin to share vote of thanks. It's been a wonderful session for me. I really appreciate you, sir, our facilitator, Sina Abimbola, and every person that joined, participated in this training session. Thank you so much for giving us the strength, the support to be able to do this. Calvin, please, vote of thanks for me.
Thank you, MPP. Thank you so very much for hosting this. Prof. Ndiola, no, it's Shino. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the experience you've shared. We don't take it for granted that you are able to give us 2 hours of your time on a Saturday morning. And all of you that have participated here, Dr. Dipo, you stayed from start to the finish. Madam Abiodun Ogino, thank you so very much for your input.
Thank you, sir.
It was great listening to you. We're truly grateful for everybody. As there was a point, we had 21 participants here, and that's one of the tenets of why we started the Media Hub, to be able to gather us in this training school to get the experienced people to impart the knowledge and share their experiences with us younger people and the up and coming ones, and even to train those of us who just need a bit of brushing up. And all of you who ask questions, my brother Osazu, it was great to see you here. All of you, on behalf of the admins of the Media Hub, thank you all so very much. The recording will be available sometime later today. We'll put it on our YouTube channel, but I can also convert it into MP3, which I might be able to share on the group for those of us who want to listen to it over and over and over and over again. So once, twice, and a million times, I say thank you all, and God bless you for attending. And at this point, the meeting is over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Love you
Thank
all.
you so much, organizers. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
See you next month, the month of August. Bye.
Bye-bye.